Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal de International. I'm called Morinti at Top Stories. The changing face in the English-speaking path of the Cameroon has called for a rating of schools and universities, and now targets on belligerents. In this edition represents facts why bomb attacks in the University of Buea is a violation of international conventions and instruments to which Cameroon is a signatory. And the Speaker of the House of National Assembly, Honorable Cavaye Jibril, has called on actors in charge of the upcoming continental jamboree to manage the affairs of the tournament with all integrity. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. The changing face of the conflicts in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon has called for a rethink at schools and universities and now targets from belligerents. In the following write-up, Captain Henry Atembe says a bomb in the University of Buea that was yesterday is a violation of international conventions and instruments to which Cameroon is a signatory. His story.
The explosion on campus of the University of Buea, southwest region of Cameroon on November 10, 2021, calls for a rethink on how the conflict is changing its face. The asymmetric nature of the conflict has instilled fear amongst all and sundry that belligerents are tampering with educational institutions, hospitals and churches goes contrary to international conventions and instruments on safe schools. According to the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attacks during Armed Conflict, Cameroon is the 81st country worldwide to endorse the Safe School Declaration. Despite its endorsement, the director of the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attacks, Dia Nichon, reveals students, teachers, schools and universities continue to endure significant violence. A glaring example is that of the University of Buea, which got its first dose of violence on campus. Cameroon is one of the 28 countries in the world most affected by attacks on education. During the 4th International Conference on Safe Schools Declaration in Abuja, Nigeria, on the 21st of October 2021, 300 children across 10 countries are known to have authored a manifesto to world leaders requesting them to deny belligerents on campuses, saying they are scared.
The actors of the upcoming continental jamboree, the African Nations Cup, have been urged to manage affairs of the tournament with all integrity. The call was made by the House Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Cavaye Jibril, with the opening of the third ordinary session that opened this Thursday. More in the following story with Beatrice Ngamu.
2 months to the start of the African Nations Cup in Cameroon, the people's representatives, through Cavaye Jibril, invites Cameroonians to demonstrate their legendary hospitality and patriotism.
It's going to be an important activity to showcase our country in this very important sporting activity that will be coming up.
Cameroonians should be proud to be part of that history-making event and to show the best of our hospitality to our strangers who are visiting.
I add my voice to that of the Speaker of the National Assembly to say that it is an opportunity for all of us to see that the image of Cameroon is sold and sold positively.
Main agenda of this third ordinary session of National Assembly is to scrutinize and adopt the state's budget for the next financial year.
The budget has to reflect the aspiration of the people. We have to see the implementation of the special status, and the budget has to reflect that. That will please the people for peace, for normalcy to return.
And this exercise is what is going to determine the developmental progress of our country. And parliamentarians have come with pomp and energy to concentrate and to ensure that proper work is being done.
Government had already taken adequate measures to see that 15% of our budget is given to the regions. We are going to make a serious leap forward.
In line with efforts to stabilize the situation in the northwest and southwest regions, the House Speaker reiterates the need for the implementation of resolutions adopted at the end of the major national dialogue last 2019. As a traditional ruler, Kavayeye Jibril seized the opportunity to appeal on his peers from the northwest and southwest regions who fled their chiefdoms to go back home. The MPs this day remembered one of theirs, Salome Ngaba Nzogo, who died last August, and the sad shooting of the little 5-year-old Carolese Erondiale last October by a gendarme, who was also lynched.
Electricity experts in the country have highly recommended the private sector in the management of electricity in the country. These as a seek measures to regulate the many problems of measuring electricity bills in the country, bills that most Cameroonians are yet to understand the usual fluctuating rates. How technical are these challenges and how can they be remedied? The details in the following story with Hysen Cha.
High and exorbitant electricity bills decried by Cameroonians on daily basis. Bills produced by electrical meters, which most often are in a poor functional state and at times completely out of service. Most consumers can hardly recognize their consumption trends as it keeps fluctuating in an undetermined rate. How to remedy the situation is the object of this sensitization workshop, the ring fencing of the electricity metering services in Cameroon, fruits of a 20 months intensive findings.
The
objective of this project is to enable consumers pay exactly what they consume. Everyone should be able to determine his or her consumption ahead of time, be able to verify information on his consumption and limit errors related to billing. The experts equally urge the government to get the potential private sector involved in the management of electricity to ameliorate the energy sector, which remains a veritable problem for Cameroonians. We are giving proposals on how to integrate the private sector, how the private sector can invest in electricity, how to create employment through that link to enable the production of electricity meters in Cameroon. All at the moment are being imported. This is costly and difficult to manage. The initiative, piloted by the Energy Sector Regulatory Agency, funded by the African Development Bank, is in line with the goal of electrifying Cameroon and African countries as a vital asset of development.
And with delays in the elaboration of the Sustainable Development Planning scheme for the littoral region, stakeholders have begun examining the reports presented by the contracting firm in charge of the elaboration. The development stakeholders met in Douala this November 11. Gladys Ambodiban completes that story.
These development stakeholders and officials of the Ministry of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development are examining the technical diagnosis of the Sustainable Development Scheme of the littoral region. This falls within the second phase of government's development vision for 2035.
This level, we are looking at the diagnosis of the region, the territorial diagnosis of the region, and the meeting was to see if really the firm was on the field and collect all and if they have collected all the information that we need to go ahead with that operation.
The elaboration of the development scheme for the littoral has noted a gross delay, and the officials expect to understand the methodology implemented by the contracting firm, the broad outlines of the diagnostic of the scheme, and observations made by local stakeholders on the draft.
We give 2 weeks to the other stakeholder to send their observation on that report to the firm, so that the firm will include those observations and then go to the field to collect the others' information before completing his report. And after that, another committee will be organized to make sure that all those information have been collected and put into the report.
The National Spatial Planning Policy is currently being hampered by several structural difficulties, amongst which are the absence of a national land use planning strategy, lack of training, and absence of the main regional planning instruments.
The United Kingdom and Cameroon have reinforced ties with the interest of boosting the economies of both countries. Focus during the exchange was the Economic Partnership Agreement. The visit of the United Kingdom High Commissioner to the Cameroon National Shippers Council this November 11 has been highly saluted, as we hear the following story. It is the third visit of the United Kingdom High Commissioner to Cameroon at the Cameroon National Shippers Council within the last 5 years.
Our objective really was to understand some of the challenges and opportunities that the Shippers Council faced and are facing. We were very impressed with the extensive efforts that the General Manager and his team have taken to improve the conditions for drivers and shippers in Cameroon.
With an interest in accompanying Cameroon in its quest for development, both countries focused on partnership agreements. By these, the board reviewed the trade policy, free trade agreements, and many other areas which could boost the economies of both countries.
Earlier this year, the United Kingdom and Cameroon ratified the Economic Partnership Agreement between our two countries as a way of continuing trade flows between us. It's an important aspect of our bilateral relationship.
While reiterating the role of the Cameroon National Shippers Council, which is key actor in providing governments with data on international trade and goods collected on imports and exports, the president of the Cameroon National Shippers Council described the visit as timely. He recalled Cameroon's stand in the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council through an institutional strategic partnership in March 2019.
Nous connaissons tous les efforts faits par le président de la République pour que le Cameroun soit membre à part entière du Commonwealth.
Gus Penda talks of ongoing mobilization for the private sector to join the Commonwealth Enterprise, which they believe trade and investment relationship can grow faster. The exchange ended with a visit to the Maritime Museum, a moment for the diplomats to evaluate works carried out so far by the Cameroon National Shippers Council. Some 750 Cameroonian refugees living in Nigeria have received donations of foodstuff and other household equipment from the government of Cameroon. The vulnerable refugees have expressed their wish to return to Cameroon 5 years after fleeing from the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon for safety. More with Haisincha.
Joy and happiness expressed by these Cameroonian refugees, victims of the socio-political crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, currently residing at the Cross River State, Nigeria. Some 750 refugees receiving donations of basic commodities from the Cameroonian government, a sigh of relief for the needy persons who can only say thank you and express the wish to return to motherland.
I give great thanks to the Cameroonian government and the Nigerian government for our taking refuge here in Cross River State of Nigeria. So we give thanks, we pray that peace should reign so that we go back to our various destinations.
In fact, I so much thank them for what they have done for us. This our program should finish so that we may go back to where we come from.
The gifts, made up of rice, buckets, and other household items, handed to them by the Cameroonian consul to Calabar, who transmitted the message of comfort from the President of the Republic.
We are here to celebrate human gesture of our head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, who instructed his government to assist his people in Nigeria who are refugees.
And according to statistics from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the Cross River State harbors over 36,000 Cameroonian refugees. And the consul used the opportunity to advise the displaced persons to give a deaf ear to the separatist leaders piloting the crisis from the diaspora.
They are sitting in the diaspora, sending messages sending money, collecting money, fundraising, send their children to school. Good school there.
This is the fourth time the refugees are receiving assistance from the government of Cameroon after fleeing their comfort zones for safety in neighboring Nigeria.
A recent contemporary urban gospel album has been released, inspired by his drive to preach the gospel through music. David Prince says his dream is to transform the perception people have about gospel music. Cliquez Henry Atembe tells us more.
David L. Prince is the latest name in the world of gospel. A rising urban contemporary gospel artist whose first release is already sending gospel music lovers wild, actually reveals himself to Canal International.
I sing symphony pop music.
Seigneur Jésus-Christ, et si tu crois dans ton cœur que Dieu l'a ressuscité des morts, tu seras sauvé.
As early as 11 years, the God-fearing Earl Prince was spotted as a revolution in the world of gospel music by his sister and manager, Ameche Odilia.
I saw a passion in him when he's singing. He started in church. When he was singing, people were crying. So I saw it in him. I want to give him the hand. I want to bring him top, the best.
David L. Prince's wish is to move to higher heights, preaching the word of God through music.
Un jour viendra, tu regretteras. La 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 la, oh Jésus-Christ.
And this is just the beginning of a career of this 27-year-old prodigal son of Fontem in the Libialem division of the southwest region of Cameroon.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast on Canal International. Thanks so much for watching. We have news in the French language at exactly this level. Senkan will arrange this Kanga. But coming up next is the brief with Lil Piégou. As for me, I'll be back same time tomorrow. Good night.